Who stays up? With 3 newly promoted teams entering into the Premier Division comes the mammoth task of staying in the division for more than a year. Last year Watford, Norwich and Brentford came up from the Championship and only Brentford remained in the top division of English football. As 3 new teams take on this challenge, who stays and who is heading for a quick return, in order to assess their chances you have to first look at their competition and who will be down there with them. Last year Leeds and Everton were the 2 teams closest to relegation, however they have the squad capability to avoid a relegation battle as long as they strengthen what Leeds already have with some smart signings from RB Salzburg and Mark Roca from Leipzig. Meanwhile Everton have received cash from the Richarlison deal, and with a semi-decent squad already they should be able to steer clear of the drop. So who does that leave in contention? Well, after a shocking end to last season with 1 win and 2 draws out of their last 10 matches, Southampton have to be thrown into contention after finishing 15th, only 5 points off the drop despite a really strong mid-season form. Also down there will be Brentford, who were seemingly being dragged into a relegation battle after a strong start to the season, but after Christian Eriksen's arrival at the club, Brentford were a whole new beats and comfortably stayed up, picking up 46 points, placing them in 13th, a strong 11 points off the drop. But with Eriksen departing to Manchester United, there is gaping hole in that Brentford team that cannot be replaced, and without the wonder of first season in the league, Brentford will be roped into a relegation battle this year. This leaves the 5 main candidates for the relegation battle to be the 3 promoted teams, Fulham, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, along with Brentford and Southampton, who I fully expect to take up the bottom 5 places in the league. The best way to look at how Forest will play and line up this season is by looking at how they did and fared last season. Forest's current manager Steve Cooper was appointed permanent manager on the 21st of September 2021 after Chris Houghton was sacked after just 7 games, gaining only 1 point despite sizable investments being brought into the club. Steve Cooper came in and changed the mentality, creating a defensively stable team that were flexible in attack and opted to control games. Steve Cooper initially started off playing a 4-2-3-1 formation until the January transfer window came, allowing him to bring in his own players like Sam Surridge, Kenyon Davis and Steve Cook, allowing him to switch to a 5-2-1-2 formation, what he is expected to carry through to the Premier League, especially with the 5-back having previous success for clubs like Brentford in staying up. Cooper opts for strong aggressive centre-backs and last season opted for a back 3 of Cook, Worrell and McKenna, who operated as a strong backline, conceding 40 goals all season, less than 1 goal per game. Across the wing-backs, and Cooper heavily focused on the right-hand side and on the talents of Middlesbrough loan Jed Spence, who was a key creative spark going forward. For the left wing-back position, Cooper opted for Jack Colback, a CM by trade who sat narrower and helped retain possession for the team while funneling the right-hand side that was key for Forest. In the centre of the pitch, the usual duo was Ryan Yates alongside James Garner, with Yates acting as the more disciplined tempo setter while James Garner took up a more box-to-box role, registering 4 goals and 8 assists. The cam position was usually taken up by Philip Zinckernagel, who acted as a key athletic creator in the Forest side. Finally, the front 2 that Cooper opted for after the January transfer window was Brennan Johnson and Kenyon Davis, with Sam Surridge chipping in too. Davis provided notable link-up play, bringing together the midfield and the attack whilst still scoring 5 goals in 18 games, with Brennan Johnson being a breakout star for Forest with his pace and trickery leading to an incredible 18 goals and 10 assists, very much a key man for Forest down that right-hand side. As we head through the window, it's essential that Forest make many notable key signings in order to give them the best chance and survival. Due to many of their players last year being on loan, Zinckernagel, Garner, Spence and Davis, meaning they have to replace key members of their first team squad whilst still adding to their bench. Matters have been complicated further with their goalkeeper Bryce Samba looking set to leave with 1 year left on his contract. Hence Forest need to bring in a new goalkeeper, a Premier League quality centre-back, a right wing-back to account for Jed Spence, who is seemingly off to Tottenham, and a left wing-back, as they can't be so reliant on the right-hand side in the top division as they would become too predictable. Along with this they are looking for a new centre mid, centre attacking mid and striker to account for the loss of loan signings. So far Forest have filled some of these gaps, completing the signing of Manchester United backup goalkeeper Dean Henderson on a season-long loan and former Liverpool striker Taiwo Awoniyi for £18 million from Union Berlin to fill the space left by Kenyon Davis. Finally they have completed the signing of Julian Biancone, who will take Jed Spence's place at right wing back. Hence it's been a strong start to the window with clever signings like Dean Henderson. However, we will have to wait and see whether the likes of Awoniyi and Biancone can adapt to the Premier League and perform at the levels needed. If we cast our minds forward to the start of the season, Forest have a challenging start to the season with the first game coming against Newcastle and also facing Manchester City and Tottenham within their first 5 games. I believe that after a challenging first 5 games Forest can kick on and pick up a few points which will build a spark of positivity. They will feature an organised defence with a mobile attack that has the ability to break the line with Awoniyi but also play in front of a defence with the technical ability of Johnson. However, after a strong start they will face challenges after the World Cup, resulting in a tough winter period in which Steve Cooper could depart with a new manager coming in to see the rest of the season out unsuccessfully. I expect Forest to head straight back down due to a squad that lacks the quality to really make a difference in the league and a style that requires quality players in regards to the league in order to compete to the maximum. Ultimately they will struggle for goals and hence will drop points regularly, leaving them at the bottom of the Premier League when the season ends. Their squad lacks the character and know how to survive in a Premier League, and the owners will pull the trigger too early after investing big money, leaving the club in free fall. Moving over to Scott Parker's Bournemouth, who was appointed at the very start of last season in a switch from rivals Fulham. Bournemouth finished second in the Championship, managing 88 points, scoring 74 and conceding 39. Parker favours possession-based football that looks to retain the ball over all else with a slow build-up and long-flowing moves. Parker's side plays a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, which they are expected to carry over to the Premier League, although while at Fulham he often chose to play with a back 5. Bournemouth's back 2 are competent on the ball, with last season it being Nat Phillips and Lloyd Kelly. The midfield is also expected to be equally efficient at passing and possession-based football and often dynamic, as shown by Philip Billing and Jefferson Lerma. A key position for Bournemouth was over on the left wing, with Jayden Anthony clocking up 8 goals and 7 assists as their breakout star and could be an essential creative spark on the left-hand side. But the key player last season for Bournemouth was Dominic Solanke, who after a promising youth seemed to fall in bad form but stayed strong and reinvented himself this season, scoring 29 goals and creating 7 more, a more than impressive tally, and will be Bournemouth's key man as they move into the Premier League. As they move into the new season, key transfers have to be made in order to ensure they give themselves the best chance and survival. First off, with Nat Phillips returning back to Liverpool from his loan, and hence they need another centre-back, with the main link so far being Nat Phillips extending his loan. They also need to look at bringing in new wing-backs of first-team quality, an area they've already sought to improve with the signing of right-back Ryan Fredericks on a free from West Ham. Their other transfer this window is an expected bench player in midfielder Joe Rothwell, another position they desperately need first-team quality in order to dominate and control games the way Scott Parker wants. Finally, a backup striker to push Dominic Solanke is essential in order to give them the best chance at scoring goals, as if he falls out of form this team could lack a strong quality focal point, with the backup striker being Keith Moore. On a positive note for Bournemouth, there have been very few outgoings, with the only notable one being Gary Cahill leaving on a free, who could have provided that Premier League know-how but ultimately is no longer good enough for the league. Looking at their start to the season, they kick off the season at home to Aston Villa, which seems to be their best chance to gain points, as they play Arsenal, Manchester City and Liverpool before Wolves at home in one of the toughest first 5 games that you can get. This will almost certainly start what will end up being a pretty lackluster season for Bournemouth, who will return to the Championship, finishing 19th in the league. Ultimately they do not have the quality of players to dominate and play the way Scott Parker wants, and although they will play nice football at times similar to his time at Fulham, his side will lack goals and an incisive threat, with the side being too reliant on Solanke to get their goals. By the end of the season I expect Scott Parker to stay as the manager, but the season will be long and uninspiring from a Bournemouth's fan perspective. Finally, Fulham, who appointed Marco Silva as head coach after the departure of Scott Parker to Bournemouth, and enjoyed a fruitful season, scoring a mammoth 106 goals whilst scoring 7 goals in a game on 3 separate occasions last season, as they dominated the league with a squad that was clearly a cut above the rest of the league. Last season Silva went for a 4-2-3-1 that he will presumably carry through to this season. Fulham played attacking, fast-paced football that utilised wingers that cut in like Harry Wilson and Neeskens Kibano, allowing the wing-backs to push high and overlap. In the midfield too, Silva chose a deeper-lying playmaker, whether this was Jean-Michel Seri or Nathaniel Chalobah, paired with a more advanced box-to-box midfielder, either Tom Kearney or Harrison Reed. Along with this bright youngster, Fabio Carvalho sought to operate in the pockets and spaces behind Fulham's talisman Alexander Mitrovic, whose hold-up play and superior finishing brought him to a record-breaking 42 goals. Fulham sought to push up high, with the centre-backs being placed at the halfway line, with Adarbi Oyo and Ream providing ample cover, pace and superiority in the air. The one key weakness of Fulham last season was coming from behind, as they only turned around a losing deficit on 4 of the 14 occasions, placing them 19th in a table of points gained from losing positions, demonstrating that once Fulham took the initiative they would often find their way to more goals and a comfortable win, but struggled to turn situations around. The transfer window so far has been one of outgoings, as perceived first-team players like Fabio Carvalho and Anguissa have left, along with Seri, who played a lot last season. As Fulham look for a step up in quality, they require a first-choice keeper, as Roddick doesn't cut it as a top-league keeper, with the main link so far being Bernd Leno from Arsenal. Along with the keeper, a new centre-back is required to partner Tosin Adarabioyo, as Tim Ream isn't Premier League quality. They've already brought in a deep-lying midfielder in João Paulinho for a reasonable £18 million from Porto, and may look to find a partner alongside him, as players like Tom Kearney are getting on a bit. With Carvalho departing to Liverpool, they are on the search for a centre-attacking mid to be a key creative spark in the centre of the midfield. Finally, a left winger is required, and hence Fulham are close to agreeing a deal for Manor Solomon, who can partner Harry Wilson as a wide player. Questions may be asked over whether Fulham need another striker, but they may also look to put their trust on the Championship R9 Mitrovic, with players like Rodrigo Muniz being seen as suitable cover. Taking a look at Fulham's opening fixtures, and it is a mixed bag, opening the season on one of the toughest games of the year, with Liverpool at home before Wolves, Brentford, Arsenal and Brighton, resulting in some decent opportunities for a few points. Overall, Marco Silva will look to continue an attacking style of football that will leave them to a few batterings throughout this season. They lost 6-1 to Manchester City in the FA Cup this season, ultimately with solid wide creators allowing players like Mitrovic to score goals, especially against the non-top 56 teams, where they can provide a strong attacking threat and pace of play that will allow Fulham to break their curse of successive relegations from England's top division and stay in the Premier League for the first time in around 10 years, pushing a Brentford or a Southampton into the bottom 3. That wraps up my view on which of the newly promoted Prem sides can stay in the division next year. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're down there, leave a like and subscribe. Goodbye.